guys. So it's been long. I have not vlogged, as well as I have not gone for a ride. That's why I just thought maybe since I was bored at home, I should just make a short vlog, or maybe whatever, kind of a daily observation ride. I just took out my bike for a ride. So yeah, let's see. I'll just ride for some time, and if I can think of any contents, then I'll do it right away. Okay, so let's talk about related to, of course, riding. I'm not gonna point out the things how to ride as such, because those are gonna be a very common topic, and most of you will be knowing how to ride a bike. So I'll just give you some, my personal experience. From my personal experience, I'm gonna share, which I think you guys should also know. Okay, so first of all, the first point is, it is very important to know what kind of bike you are riding. So there are different kind of bikes: cruiser, sports bike, naked sports, as such. So even if you know how to ride a bike, it doesn't mean that you'll be comfortable with all the three kinds of bike. So there are cases, which I'll give you an example. My friend's friend, he used to ride a sports bike. Once it happened, my friend, he was pretty confident. He borrowed his friend's bike, and he called me. He called me for a ride. So at first, that time I was not an experienced rider as well. So I thought that all kind of bikes would have the same mechanism. I was also very comfortable. I thought, since he knows how to ride, I have seen him riding a sports bike, and I've been with him as a Pillion seater. So I was thinking that it will be fine to go for a ride. And the ride was kind of a long ride. We went to visit a place. It happened on the way that he misbalanced the cruiser bike. That was an Avenger. Usually he used to ride a sports bike, NS200. He was very confident in the beginning. He thought that it will be of kind of a similar mechanism, the bike which he was riding before, NS200, and the cruiser bike. So on the way we met an accident, and on that very moment he said that he could not get the balance, because see, riding on a straight way and riding on a curved lane is very different. So if you're riding on a straight lane, it doesn't matter what kind of bike you're handling, it's going to be similar, as in, like, if you know how to balance it, you can simply go. But then when it comes to a long ride, you need some certain techniques, because sports bike, you can just lean heavily, and then the leaning position, the leaning angle is more than the cruiser. In the sense, when you're riding a sports bike, you can lean up to 40 or 30%. Sometimes it even goes to 25-30% angle that you can lean your bike. 20 to 30% you can lean your bike. But when it comes to cruiser, that is not possible. Cruisers are not good for cornering, and because of that mechanism, we met an accident on that particular ride. How it happened was, we overturned in a corner, and then we fell down on the other side. He assumed that the cruiser bike could also go at the same speed in that curve like that of the sports bike NS200. So basically the point is, hold on. Yeah, so basically the point is, the sports bike which he was riding before could take that curve with a speed of 40 km/h, but then like I've said, the cruiser bike has a different mechanism. It cannot lean to that person which a sports bike can. So he was trying to lean as much as he can, but unlike a sports bike, it has a limitation. So because of that, he could not take the turn, and we fell off on the other side. So that is the first experience I also had. So my first point is, do not consider every bike as the same. Okay, they are made with different purposes. Now the second point is taking a cornering. All right. Now, when you're riding a bike, unlike cars, two-wheelers, it depends on the weight while taking a corner. So, in cornering, you should change the weight of your bike. In the sense, when you're riding a straightaway, the weight of the bike is in the middle. It's neither on the left side or in the right side. You're sitting in the middle and you're giving the weight in the middle itself. When it comes to cornering, you should position your weight, your body weight, according to the direction of the corner. So for example, if you're taking a left corner, then you should keep your body weight on the left side. In the sense, you have to lean towards the left instead of being sitting in the middle and just cornering with a handlebar. Instead of that, you can lean your body. Then with less effort, you can tackle the corner very easily. But then leaning also, it depends on the speed of the bike also. So the more speed you are, the more body weight should be on the cornering side. Okay, so if you're on a high speed and there's a corner, then according to your speed you have to lean it. Yeah, so sometimes if you don't have the ratio of the speed and your leaning weight, then there's a high possibility of sometimes overrunning the corner, or missing the corner. In the sense, sometimes you might overturn it, or sometimes you might overrun it. Be it any kind of bike. If you're riding very slow, then that's okay, it doesn't matter much. But when you are at a speed of around 70 to 80, when you're taking a corner of around with a speed of 60-70 speed, leaning, be it a cruiser or be it any kind of sports bike, you need to change your body weight. So that is the second point while cornering. Do not be afraid. Some guys think that you might fall off when you lean down. Yeah, so do not be worried to lean down, but then there are certain points you have to keep in mind. That is, the first thing is you should know the tire grip of your bike, especially the rear tire. You just have to be aware of few things, that is the condition of your tire, the condition of the rod, and the condition of the weather. So if it's a rainy weather, then yes, there is a chance that you might slip off. So you have to reduce the speed, as well as you should reduce the weight of leaning. And when it comes to the road condition, pebbles, tiny roads and sands are the worst enemy of a rider. So even if you have a good tire also, when it comes to the cornering, where if there is pebbles or tiny stones, pebbles or sand, then there's a high possibility that you might slip off. So you should be aware of it also. And then the next one is the tire condition. So even if the road is good, even if the weather is good, if your tire condition has less grip, then definitely you will slip your tire. And usually it happens at the rear tire. Okay, let me just stop here for some time. Now the third point is gear shifting. Every bike, or be it any kind of vehicle, there is a particular speed limit to shift the gear. So you cannot just simply shift your gear to 3 or 4 at a speed of 10 or 20 km/h. Now, what is engine braking? This is a very common exercise mostly riders do. When we are at a very high speed and suddenly when there comes a speed breaker, or whenever we reach to a condition where we have to slow down immediately, then applying a brake sometimes has a disadvantage when the condition is very close. Downshifting has one disadvantage when it comes to two-wheelers, and particularly those two-wheelers, those bikes which doesn't have a slipper clutch, right? I'm sorry, it is not downshifting, it is engine braking. So usually what people do is instead of applying brakes, they downshift the gear. They downshift the gear, and then the engine itself slow downs the speed of the bike. All right. Now, many of us, I also apply that mechanism to slow down at a very high speed when it comes to cornering, or when it comes to certain conditions that I have to slow down my speed limit. So that I also used to do that. I also apply the same mechanism, but to my experience, it is not convenient to those bikes which doesn't have a slipper clutch. Those bikes which doesn't have a slipper clutch, it has a various disadvantage of engine braking. The first disadvantage is your tire will get locked, because if you immediately shift down to gear 4, then the rev matching, that is the RPM of the engine and your speed and the speed of the rear wheel will vary, will have a huge difference. If you are rev matching the engine and the speed, then there's no problem, but for that you have to be very experienced. At least that's by experience. If I'm wrong, you guys can let me know in the comment section. You guys can share me your experiences, but so far that's my experience. Now, this engine braking and the disadvantage which I have said will not apply to all kind of bikes. And what I mean by that is because of a mechanism called slipper clutch. All bikes doesn't have slipper clutch. Some bikes, sports bikes, high range bikes will have a slipper clutch. Now, for those bikes which has a slipper clutch, then it doesn't matter much for them to apply the mechanism of engine braking, because they have a slipper clutch. The slipper clutch maintains the RPM of the engine and the speed of the rear tire. And how it works is the slipper clutch will connect and disconnect automatically according to the RPM and according to the speed according to your speed. So when it comes to non-slipper clutch bikes, if you downshift the gear, if you engine brake, it will affect directly. The clutch will be connected to the engine and it will affect directly. Whereas when it comes to slipper clutch, the slipper clutch will adjust. It will slowly disengage the clutch from the engine, and then If necessary, again it will engage, the clutch will engage with the engine. So it's more or like automatic. It's automatic. It will maintain the RPM and your speed, so you won't feel any jerkiness, or your tire will not get locked like in those bikes which does not have a slipper clutch. So that is the case in those bikes which have a slipper clutch, like in those 1000cc bikes, R1 as such, sports bikes. Usually they provide slipper clutch. So that is the case. Engine braking, it depends. If you are using a non-slipper clutch bike, you need an experience to match the rev and the speed while engine braking. Whereas in slipper clutch, it doesn't matter much. It will get adjusted by itself automatically. That is about engine braking. It's good. It stops you immediately when you do engine braking, because at a very high speed, when you apply the clutch disengages from the engine, and even if you apply brakes, it goes faster than the bike with the gear. Alright, so at a very high speed, engine braking is very important, because it really slows down your bike quicker than applying a brake. So that is the advantage of engine braking. Alright, now the next point is about the pillion seaters. Like I've said in the first point, I think it's all about balance, the weight of the rider and the seater as well. So now the point is, if the pillion seater is not experienced in the sense, the those seater who are not those who doesn't understand the mechanism of riding a bike, they create a lot of problem for the riders. If an experienced pillion seater sits on the back, then the rider also gets confident. Not just confident, it becomes for the rider to ride conveniently if the seater is an experienced one. Now the point is, see, unlike vehicles, two-wheelers, bikes, the handle, the front weight means a lot. The weight that is in the front side means a lot. The pillion seaters, those are not experienced, and to be specific about this problem, because I have faced many problems regarding to this point. This is mostly due to the female pillion seaters. See, the thing is, the female seaters, what they do is they are not very comfortable. They are uncomfortable to sit attached to the rider. Okay, what we suggest, what we in the sense the riders, those who are riding the bike, what they prefer is the pillion seater to come closer, to get closer to our back. There is no other intention besides to ride confidently. Alright, we as in the riders want the pillion riders to get closer to our back as much as possible. Alright, now some people might take us in other way around, you know, female. For gents, for male, there's no issue. So they sit closer to our back, so we don't face this issue much. But then when it comes to the female pillion seaters, as you know, they also find uncomfortable to get closer to our back, because you know it, even if I don't say it, right? So there comes the issue. They feel uncomfortable, so which is why they used to lean back in the sense distance themselves from the riders. They used to move backward at the edge of the bike, alright, and keep a distance as much as they can between the rider and between them, so that they can also sit comfortably. But the point is, the more the seaters go behind, it becomes difficult for the rider to balance it. Now I'll tell you why. See, when it comes to bikes, the handle, everything is in the front, right? Everything is in the front, in the sense the steering adjusts the balance, right? So if the pillion seater gets behind at the edge, the front wheel gets less weight, okay, which means the front tire has a lesser friction on the ground, because the weight is at the back. So there's a high possibility that the front side of the tire will be lifted up, okay, and when it is lifted up, it gets less friction with the road. So in a small jerking also, the front tire will be lifted up. If there's a pothole, if the road condition is not so good, it's not so smooth, a small bump or a small pothole might lead us to an accident. Once the front tire is not in the ground, there's no possibility, there's no chances at all that you can control the balance, because if the front tire and the handle is in the air, the tire is disconnected from the rod, which means you cannot, even if you turn also, even if you get a balance also, try to get a balance also, it's not gonna work, because the tire is already off the rod. There's no friction between the tire and the rod, right? So that is the problem. Two-wheelers, it is better to give weight in the front side, not at the back. So this is a request in general to the pillion seaters. If you're sitting on a bike, please, when the rider tells you to come closer and sit in the mid instead of getting behind at the edge, at the rear. We're not meaning it in other sense. Don't think that the rider is taking an advantage, right? Some people take it in that way, whereas I don't know about the other riders, but I don't think so. Most of the riders, they just tell you to come closer at our back so that we won't fall down, so that we can ride it confidently, right? So because if you sit in the middle, the weight ratio of the bike is proportion, it is balanced, neither in the front, too much in the front, nor in the rear. So it is in the mid, which means the front tire has less chance to be lifted up, or the front side of the bike will have no chance to lose friction from the road. So as pillion seater is very lightweight, then that's a different case. That will be okay. But then with an average weight, I think the pillion seater, the person, be it a male or female, it is advisable, and I suggest you to sit in the middle, right? Get closer as much as you can to the rider's back, so that the rider can ride confidently and will not lose misbalance. In off-roading, mostly what people do is they stand instead of sitting, and they lean forward and give more pressure on the front side, so that on a bumpy road in off-roading, even if the front bike tire gets off the ground, also they pressure it down again. By leaning forward, they push the front side of the bike towards the land surface, so that they get the balance again. If you observe, you might notice it. Most of the off-roading bikes and off-roaders, they will stand rather than sitting. Of course, sitting and standing, that also has a different aspects. Instead of sitting and standing riding, that also a different aspects. But also standing and riding in off-roading condition, it also helps because you give your weight in the front side, you get more balanced. So the pillion seater should keep in mind that when the rider is leaning on the left side, they should also lean along with the rider, and if they're leaning on the right side, they should also lean along with the rider on the right side. There are many people, okay, especially when it comes this point, there are many seaters, they get scared to lean along with the rider. So what they do is, when the rider lean towards the left side, they get scared and they used to lean towards the right side, or even if not on the right side, they try to sit in the middle position instead of leaning. Now that causes an opposite balance. Okay, the rider is trying to take the left left corner by giving the weight towards the left side, so that the rider can corner it conveniently, but then the seater on the other hand stays straight in the middle, gives the weight in the middle or on the other side. It creates a contradiction. The balance contradicts, right? So the bike gets confused. The bike, in the sense, the balance of the bike gets confused, because one is pressuring on the left side and the one is still in the middle. The one is giving weight in the middle or on the right side. So mostly the seaters, they get scared. That's why they don't lean on the left side, thinking that they will fall down. So that is not the case. You should trust your rider, especially when it comes to two-wheelers. If you're not trusting the rider, then please don't even sit on the bike. So please keep these few things in mind. Now, the logic behind a sports bike, why their seat is inclined, why the passenger seat, the Pillion seat, is at a higher position. It is because of the problem which I have mentioned earlier. In sports bike, it has the capacity to go in a very high speed, which is why the sports bike is designed in that manner. The rear seat is higher than the rider, because so that, like I've said, so that the Pillion seater, whoever is sitting, by default they will be leaned forward to the rider's back, which means the rider will get the balance, and it will be comfortable, convenient for him to get the balance and ride at a high speed. That is why our sports bikes are designed in such a manner. Don't misunderstand the riders. When we tell you to come closer to us, we don't mean it in any other sense. We just want us to be safe. Those who are watching understand it, and whenever comes a situation, let others also know that this is the case and nothing else. Yeah, so these are the few things that I wanted to share according to my experience so far. There are other few things, but those things I will tell you guys in the next video. Maybe if I get time, I will explain the things. So thank you guys. With that, I'm gonna end up today's vlog. Alright then, if I'm wrong with any of my points, then you all are free to comment and correct me in the comment section. So thank you viewers. We'll see you guys in the next video.